After teaching a masterclass early in the pandemic for Flight Path Dance Project, Michael McGowan approached me and asked if I'd be interested in making a work for the group of 12 dancers. And my immediate reaction was, well, I haven't done this in a while, so what am I going to do for these dancers that will give them an experience that feels different than maybe what they're doing, the classes that they're taking, everything happening inside these small boxes. And so my brain started churning. Obviously, I said yes right away. I wanted to work with the dancers. I knew after just that one experience teaching them that they were a group of talented dancers, really focused dancers that I felt like I would enjoy working with, and hopefully they'd enjoy working with me. So I got to thinking, my brain started turning, and what I felt I was missing most of all during this time was that feeling of community in a studio. So I thought, could I make a work that somehow captures the feeling there is when you're in a studio with 11 of your companions, the people that you work with? Can you create a sense of community in a space where there isn't anyone? So that was the challenge I had set forth for myself. As far as themes or ideas behind the dance, really it was the music for me, finding the Beethoven piece of music, these piano trios. I found them bright and really delightful music just to sit and listen to, and I loved how short each of the sections were, so it allowed me to imagine little scenarios or little vignettes, if you will, for each of the movements. The movement for the work was really inspired by the music. I got into a studio and I just started moving to the music, and things started to pour out. It had been a really long time since I had choreographed anything for myself or for someone else, so this was a really nice experiment now, especially since it was me working alone, creating movement, working on things. And then there were other times where we created things together as a group in our Zoom conversations, where I would give tasks for them to come up with some ideas to generate movement or gestures, things that I felt like were speaking to the path of the dance. So many teachers and choreographers inspired and pushed me forward on my journey as a dancer, not only when I was a student, but also as a professional, and continuing now. I'm forever looking for those teachers, those people that are guides, that give me information that is relevant to me in this moment, this time that I'm in right now. I think the teachers that spoke the most to me, and the ones that have resonated the deepest, and the ones that I remember the most, are the ones that really instilled a sense of self in everything I did, that it was me in the studio working, and that I had to drive myself. I couldn't constantly be looking for outside sources to make me work. I had to want it, and I had to really work hard. Dancing is not an easy thing to do, so you have to be incredibly dedicated mentally and physically. Teachers that held me accountable for my actions, not only in the studio, but in the theater and in my life, that made me think about what it is to be kind to people and to be nice to the people I encounter, the people I work with. Those things really struck and stuck with me. I also had an incredible professor in college that constantly demanded of me and all of the students in the class to have an opinion about what we were doing, and I feel like that has informed my work so often. I can't just move into a role or learn a dance and just be a body, be a physical presence in it. I really have to have a mental thought. I have to have an idea behind what I'm doing. There's some reason that's driving, even if it's no reason at all, but there's something always underneath. There's a thought process bubbling underneath the movement, that it's not just empty movement. There's real content and a rich, deep, thoughtful process behind it. And that's what I would hope to instill on students I'm working with or dancers I'm working with, is that same thing, that they take ownership for the dancing that they're doing, and that they instill it with a sense of themselves. They bring a personality, they bring an opinion to it. For any young dancer that I encounter, whether I'm just teaching them or I'm choreographing something for them, if I could give them any advice moving forward in their career, considering how competitive the dance world can be, is to be sure you're giving yourself an incredibly versatile training, that you're coming with a toolbox full of things that you can offer to a choreographer, to whoever it is that you're working with, even outside of dance, that you can offer so many different options for that person, that they can look at you and they can harvest things that are instilled in you, that you've been working on for many, many years, and utilize those in a way that is unique and special. I also think that a dancer is always a student, and I think taking opportunities to study with people that are interesting to you, and even people that are not so interesting to you, but that you feel like will somehow broaden the knowledge that you're going to bring into the room every time you're working, whether you're making work or you're dancing in work, that you have all of these experiences to bring forward in what you're doing. Obviously, making a work for film is very different than making something for the stage, but when I came to this work, I was actually thinking about it as a performance that would happen on a stage at a later date. So even though it's being filmed, I'm really thinking of it as a live performance, and that really required me and all the dancers in the group to think outside of the usual way in which you would make a work and the usual way in which you would film a work. So the goal I had in mind was to use film magic to make it seem like these 12 dancers were together in the studio doing this work, even though each one of them was filmed entirely separately, and I had to bring it together in the film process. I think it opened up possibilities of things we couldn't do in the space, where you can make someone appear and disappear magically. It's a little bit trickier in the theater unless you have sort of theatrical magic team doing all of these things with you. I took a lot of time practicing outside of the rehearsals with the dancers, the video element of it. So not only was I trying to generate the movement to build the dance, I was trying to do some test shots in a studio with myself being all of them. So filming myself multiple times to layer the images to see if I could create and capture that idea of it seeming like more dancers were in the studio than there were. And as I played with it more and more, and I found things that were successful and weren't, it made the process of filming the dancers later really organized and clean and precise, and I was able to get things done in a timely manner. And that is really owed in great part to these dancers' willingness to just dive in there with me and trust me, even though they had not quite the idea of what I was doing with the material I was teaching them. I tried to explain it and show them some visuals, but really, until I finish the actual edit and show it to them, I don't know that they fully comprehend the idea in which I was trying to get across. That said, these dancers have been remarkable. Every rehearsal, there they are in their little Zoom boxes, and they're so present, and they're so willing and able, and avoiding pianos and siblings that are running underneath their feet as they're trying to grasp this material that we're doing from a distance. I don't think it's the ideal way to make a work. I would much rather be in the studio with them, physically being able to manifest for them in front of their eyes what it is that I'm after, and be able to give them physical feedback right there in the studio. So this is something that's lost when we're working in a Zoom world. We have these films of each other, this two-dimensional image, and it isn't until we got into the studio just these past couple weekends where I was working with them one-on-one that I was finding all of this information I wanted to share, but really didn't have a lot of time. So my hope obviously is, we're presenting the work in this filmic medium this time, but really down the road it would be a great gift to be able to bring the work to a live theater for them and for the audience. I think it would enrich the experience I hope they've had, the good experience I hope they've had thus far. Being so isolated during this time is really challenging. It's tough. It's tough for me, and I know it's tough for these dancers that are so accustomed to being in a studio, physically working with their friends, with their colleagues, feeding off of one another's energy, and to not have that can be really really, really tricky to be alone in your box and have to somehow muster up some sort of energy and focus, and to be able to think in a broader, expansive way, to dance in a broad, expansive way when often you're confined in these small spaces. I owe these dancers a great round of applause. I think they've handled it remarkably well. I don't know that I would have done it so well had I been in their position when I was their age. I thrive, I still thrive on being in a space with other dancers and having that sense of community and the sense of competition, even, that you're looking around and you're trying to keep up with the dancers that are filling the room with you. Those things are really important to a dancer to have. And I think that getting back to that at some point is imperative. We have to get back to that. What I can easily say is that I reveled in every single rehearsal, every moment that I had with these dancers, whether we were here on video or we were in the studio for those 2 short days. The experience was so rewarding for me, and I always hope that it was just as rewarding for them. And I think a great commendation needs to go to Michael and Sean and everyone at Flight Path Dance Project for being able to continually inspire these dancers and continually feed these dancers in a creative way. I think it is an incredibly exciting time in the dance world right now. We have dancers with a remarkably high skill set. They're coming out into the world able to do these things that I can't even imagine. Like, I know myself, I could not do at their age. I can't do them at the age I'm at now. And yet here they are able to do these things. And I do think a lot of it comes from exposure. They're being exposed to a much more international, global dance scene. It's kind of coming home. And during this pandemic, it's been even more so. The fact that you can go online and take classes all across the world. I mean, I think myself how many classes I've been in that I've realized, wow, this person is in Taiwan that's taking this class with me. So there's a real exchange happening because of this pandemic that I don't know that would have happened before. I think you had to be able to travel to these places. So a world is opening up of opportunities for young dancers if they're brave enough or game enough to take on the challenge. I think the fact that we're making work and presenting work in a more filmic medium is huge. I don't think that was there, and I just think how much greater can it even become? So here we are now, and the dance films that are coming out that people are creating, some of them are so unique and so special and so extra creative. Just how far could we go with the form?